This conference will now be recorded.
So in today's session, we'll be covering about the NFR. But before NFR, there are two kinds of scenarios that in a project that when you're going to join, you're going to face. That there will be a team. They'll know that they are having performance issues, but what to do in performance testing? Which test to employ? What is the approach? What actually the performance testing team is doing? Then there will be another scenario. In that scenario, team has already using performance testing, but they want to do next round of testing, how they are going to do it. So there's an approach that we can follow. So I'll be discussing about the first approach, that when the client doesn't know even what is performance testing, they are just aware that yeah, we having some performance issues and we need to fix it. So we need to employ the performance testing team here and get this thing fixed. So in those meetings, we need to have a first walkthrough call with them, in which we are going to explain it to them that what is performance testing, how what is the methodology, how the team is going to perform the performance testing, and then what are the trigger points when we say that we need to employ a performance testing in our system. How do we do that? What are the trigger points, I would say. Then we can define testing criteria, that what are the testing criteria, so that it comes easy for the clients to understand, okay, now this system requires performance testing to tuning. And we need to also explain to them what are different types of performance testing and when to use. So and in terms of layer also, what performance testing team does in different layer, what kind of analytics that they can provide. So let's start with the first. This is a performance testing project. Now it varies from project to project, uh, I would say company to company. So, but this is a general idea, that first is we need to explain it to them that we will be needing a NFR. In that NFR, will be requiring the idea that what are the things. One second, can you see my screen, right, everyone? Let me just show you. Okay. So in the NFR, we need to explain it to them that what particular components that need to be tested. So this project background, that this will be given with the client. They'll be telling us that see, I'm facing my issues in my these particular components of my application, and we are having the response time is going higher, or I would say the SLAs are not keeping met. So they have to outline those things, but the client doesn't know. So the client doesn't know what exactly how we are going to achieve that. So we needing some information. So in order to gather that information, we need to understand. We need to be able to explain it to them what is performance testing. That's why we're gonna have this present. Like it can vary from your organization to organization. You'll have in the similar way, but you have to explain it to them what is performance testing. So the first step that start is NFR. They will give you some raw ideas about, okay, what's the user base, what is how many times the that application is getting used there, and what is the user load distribution. Those things detail will be given to us. When we have that detail and when we know their problem, that okay, they are having issues with the load test. When the certain number of users come into the website, they are having different user experience, I would say. The response time is coming different for different users. Or if depending upon the scenario, if it's a spike test, we need to do a spike test, or we need to do a scalability test. Depending upon that, we need to suggest to them. We'll be discussing about this, not an issue. So the second step that comes into performance testing is test strategy creation and methodology. So how are we going to employ that? Because uh, they have their tentative timelines, and we have to tell them that see, looking at your requirements, these are the tests that we suggest. This is how we are going to do it. These are the tentative timelines. We are going to achieve it, and we need to share all those different documents. So as it's written here, define the NFR, then strategy, and then once this is all done, we need to get a sign off from all the members. From the client, from our BU lead, I would say, from the test manager will be there, for your performance test lead will be there, and in some organization SOWs are signed. So SOW, it's a basically an agreement that we are going to this is the scope what we are going to do, and then some charges also, like if it's a chargeback, that because the resource will be involved, right? So a tool admin, how much is going to how many efforts will be taken. I mean, we can say that this entire process will take, let's say, 72 hours. Okay, so we'll split it in our working hours, and then we'll say okay, the costing will be this. So those things will be documented in your SOW. Once that SOW is fine, done and sealed, is signed, then the module test script creation in local. So it basically says that we'll be start working on the script. So we know the scenarios, we'll create the scenarios, we'll create a transaction flow document. Once those documents are ready, so this is basically, think it as a, when we are going to the client, we are explaining to them that how we work basically. So what is our process, how we work. So we are familiarizing our performance testing process to the client, and you have to present it in that manner only. Then you have to tell them that once the we have the scenarios with us, we start working on the script, we do the workload modeling, and once we have the scripts ready with us, we do a small smoke test execution. It's basically running the test. So uh, since you all know perform the load runner, right? So it has one component called controller. In some organization they use performance centers. Okay, so in you need to run the test, I mean, from the location that you are going to do the testing, and you check whether the scripts are working fine or not, whether the scripts, it should not fail. And once that is done, you are good to go to run the test. Now as per the tentative timelines what has been set, uh, we'll be doing the load test endurance, whatever it's been decided, we'll be doing that. And again, the site testing from the client side is basically, so if the client is in London, for example, we'll have some machine there, we'll be installing LR in that load generator, and then we will running the test from there to know like the performance of the application from that site. uh, Breakpoint and capacity testing, again depending upon the requirement, if we have to employ this, we will employ this, and otherwise we will not. The tools that we are going will be using, so I have to specify to them as well that we are going to use this particular tool. Then we have to see, okay, what is the user base. I mean, the client is saying, okay, I need to run with 2000 user, this is a paid tool, so you need to incorporate that whether you have that much amount of license or not. If not, you have to tell them that we'll be needing more licenses, and that will be also added in the cost. Now we need to define performance and performance counter and performance SLA compared. So these are counters basically. So when we are running the test like that, we in our course we are using Dynatrace, right? So in a similar way, there are different multiple APM tools available in the market. So you can use Datadog, you can use Dynatrace. I mean, if it's on Azure, so Azure itself offer Azure Monitor. So using those, we'll be monitoring the CPU memory, or if it's Azure, we can do log analytics, that is possible. If it's Dynatrace, then we have full stack monitoring there. So those things will be leveraged, and depending upon the requirement, I mean, if how deep in deep level of uh, analytics that the client is expecting from us, we have to suggest to them that okay, we'll be using will be like because Datadog is basically a cheaper tool, so you have to do a research here also that what kind of analytics is expected, and according to that you suggest that APM tool to them. Once the test, I mean, this all tests are done now. Now when the test is done, you have the results with you, right? So using and when you are running a test, all the data is stored in your APM tool, and as well as you have your result analysis. Now you have to do a deep dive. So I mean, the performance engineering stuff that I showed. So there, I mean, not performance engineering per se, but as performance engineer also, they also need to do a deep dive analysis, understand, okay, there's which particular component is causing the high response time, and what is the reason for it. Looking at the different tools, and you have to do the reporting of all those things. Uh, Reporting as in we have to tell the clients, not the client, the application team, and then server support team, they have a one call where we'll be sharing the results. If it's satisfactory, then it's good. Otherwise, depending on your recommendations or the results that you have shown or the error logs that have came up and you showed it to them, they will do some tuning, and after that another round of test will be done, and the process is repeated till satisfactory results are achieved or not. Then once the results are we have the results, I mean the result, we can show okay, it's a closure to our performance testing, then we issue a certificate, okay, these many users will be able to access the web application at that time, and the application will remain stable. So on a high level, if somebody asks you, you can explain it to them that the first thing is quick assignment and planning, sorry, the early involvement and setup, in which you can tell about the NFRs, workload modeling, and then the quick assessment and planning, I mean scenario designing, and then script planning, then text execution on the smoke test, and then the text execution you can tell them that we do a text, like whatever the test has been decided, we will be doing that. And once the tests are done, we'll be doing the monitoring per se, I mean during the test, and the reporting whatever issues that you have. So this is the performance testing process. They have to tell it to the client and tell them about your process, that how you are going to do the performance testing. They'll be asking you, okay, what are the, so I mean I've listed few things which in a project, if it's like not as, if you go in any company, they'll have some templates, so you have to refer those template as well. It's not that okay fine, we have some template here, there will be some other template, so you have to refer the template, and you have to, with the knowledge that you have, if something is missing out, you can add that, and if something extra is, you have to follow that process as well. So requirement question gathering template is there. So I mean I will we also have under document, I'll show it to you in the tomorrow's class, that what are the questions that you need to ask when it comes to server, I mean what are the details that one should ask, or about the application. Then we also have this performance testing master sheet and checklist. So we have certain checklist, I mean if showed you yesterday also. So environmental checklist, so okay, whether the environment is ready or not, whether access is given or not, all those things will be there in the checklist. And the master sheet is basically a single sheet which consists of all the information. So if I like access, inject details, if you're configuring network monitoring, and business scenarios, transaction detail, SLAs, injected server side information, their KPIs, all those things. Whatever a performance tester need when he's doing the testing, everything needs to be incorporated into a master sheet. That's why it's called master sheet. Then scripting wise, again, if it's a new script, you have to work from the scratch. If but if it's a like a second or a second reel or third release, you'll have some script, because it's always when the test is run, everything is done. We use like central repository is there like SharePoint. We go and upload everything there, so you can go and look at the script. You can have the document also. So it might happen that today you are working, you have done the testing from certain project, and by the next time the entire team has changed. It happened. So they will say, okay fine, what did we do next last year? So you I mean if you're also new, so you can always go back, have a look at the transactional document, look at the results, look at the script, and tell them that, see, this is how we have done it last time. Do you want us to do it the same way? If there is any issue, or we can change it depending upon the requirement. So like that you can do it. Again, scripting templates, scripting best practices. So again, every performance engineer should know the best practice. I mean, you should, the naming convention should be proper, camel casing should be used, then script validation should be put in place. So those things, I mean if script optimization can be done, that needs to be incorporated as well. Okay, then analysis and reporting. So analysis and reporting, again there you have the previous report if you have it, otherwise you can create it from scratch. We'll be sharing one document when we are done with the test. We'll be creating the reports ourselves. Then you will have more idea on this, okay, what are the things, that basic things, I mean that needs to incorporate. And on the top of that, as what as the metrics that we are getting, or the analytics that we are seeing, we can share that and add those things in the result as well. Okay, so then we'll be going to performance testing methodology, so in which we will tell them that how we are going to do the testing. So here, if you can see here, we have this client location. These are the locations. So let's say if I'm doing testing for okay, so for MFS, let's say it's been deployed all over the world. Now we have in Jacksonville, Switzerland, Portugal, Manchester, Kentford, Tulsa. So we have these many locations, right? And the client wants us to test from these locations, and their data center, it's like for our data center is Germany, but let's say it's in Phoenix, Montreal, Hong Kong. Let's assume that if it's there, okay, and it might happen that tomorrow we'll shoot it to Azure. As of now we don't have it, but tomorrow if we switch it to Azure, then how are we going to do the testing? So we have to explain to them the methodology, that how we are going to execute. Now it's a single application, but when you go in an organization has certain different kinds of, they have CRM application, they have a finance application, some applications are on-prem, some applications are deployed on over the cloud. So we have to explain it to them that this is our methodology, this is how we going to execute our tests. So you have to explain to them that again, first thing is script, using script preparation. So when you have the transaction flow document ready by this time, so you'll be working on script creation, preparation, basically using our tool LoadRunner. And then from the performance center or controller we'll be running it. Now we will do the load simulation. So LGs will be installed on this performance test agent, right? So even I have the LG, let me see if it's there. uh, Controller installed, it will show. See, load on a this agent is there, right? So this will be responsible for generating the load. Okay, so when you install a controller, by default it's get installed there. Similar way you can install your LGs in these different machine, and from the controller we can run the test. Now what here we are trying to show, I'll go one by one second. So you have to explain it to them in this way only, that okay, we'll be accessing through the internet. Now there is a WAN, I mean in a network those things will be connected through a internal WAN, I would say. Now what different things, I mean where you're thinking, okay fine, I'll run the test, but what are the different component that comes into the picture? So when you are running, you have to look at the latency, you have to look at the bandwidth. Now if I would say use, when you are running the test, you will see, okay, for Portugal I'm getting the response time are well within the SLA, but from Portugal I'm seeing, okay, some issue is coming up. So it can happen for latency, and the bandwidth issues can be there. So you have to look into that as well. Then if it's like uh, so what will happen when you are running from the load runner, I mean from this LGs, what will happen, it will go to the international WAN, and then it will go to the local network, and then it will hit the data center. So this is where your servers are hosted, and then again the request will come here, and we'll get the response time there as well. And if it's over the cloud, so I would say Azure or AWS, it will be moving over the internet. Now how are you going to monitor these things? So you have to tell it to them that see, we have certain tools with us. It can be any tool. Give me a second, just not SAS, not necessary SAS. Okay, so like Datadog and Dynatrace also. So they have two versions. We'll be discussing this in the session. So there is a SaaS and there is a on-prem. So if you want, like people, they call it managed. So if you want more security, it will be inside your domain. It will not be exposed to the internet. So we can use managed. But here, I mean, SaaS is exposed over the internet. So like that. So we'll be using these different monitoring tools to monitor the metrics of this. I mean if it's on the in the data center, we'll be monitoring those. And same way, I mean test execution is happening in the parallel. This is how shows the data, I mean your packets, how it's traveling over your network. And again, we have done, if we have Dynatrace, we'll be seeing, okay, how the Dynatrace is capturing data. If it's Azure or AWS, we have Azure Monitor, and similar way we have in something AWS also. They provide inbuilt monitoring, so we don't need any separate, I would say, APM tool that will do. But yeah, definitely if it's on-prem, we'll be needing some APM tool to go some deep dive analysis. You can tell the client that as a performance testing team, the key metrics that we are looking for is a response time, throughput, end-to-end transaction breakdown. Okay, where which component. So when you hit a request, it has certain breakdowns. Server time to first buffer, network time to first buffer, then you have download time component. So those breakdowns will be given, and depending upon we'll have the breakdowns, and then we can look at it and see, okay, if it's consuming more time in server time to first buffer, whether it's consuming more time in first network time to first buffer or download time component, like that. And then we can start our investigation. Then user right breakdown, I mean you can give them, okay, from different site. So these different client site have a different site ID, right? Their bandwidth will be defined. So you have to give a breakdown according to that as well. that okay, from we are seeing that from Portugal side the response time is pretty good, but maybe from Switzerland we are not getting it. So okay, let's see what's the issue there. If it's a machine constraint, it's a configuration issue, or it's a network. So like that you have to see the anomaly, and then you have to start investigating there. Then basic monitoring that everyone has to put it is survivability. The server should remain up, obviously. Then CPU, memory, disk IO, is the IO and the disk utilization. So these are the basic thing that needs to be put in, and these statistics are, I have to share it when you're sharing the results. So these are very important. And then we can also monitor the we can do advanced monitoring. We can also monitor the services. Again, this comes some into picture when we are seeing any issues. So services process, ISC, Tomcat, Elasticsearch, JVM, GCM, and garbage collection database. You can put some database counter as well, depending upon the kind of test you're employing. Then in network side, pretty sure you guys know that how to correlate your test with the network. So if the throughput is going higher and you're seeing the graph is going lower when in the analysis, we'll discuss this when we are running the test, and if we see that error, anyways, I'll share it at that time, because there I will tell okay how to see network issues basically. But if you're seeing the network issue, you identified okay, well, something is tricky here. We need to the network doesn't look good, then you have to use the network monitoring tool, or you can reach out to the network monitoring team. Okay, and then they have this tool, they have the tool, so they can monitor the traffic, they can monitor the bandwidth. And if you ask any network architect, they will tell you that network should not go, it's been designed in certain way that if the full traffic also comes up now, it should not go beyond 50%. That is how it should be. So if it's going even beyond 50 now, then it's a red flag, and then you have to raise it to them. So like that needs to be done. And you can configure latency in your performance center and controller also. So then you can share it. We'll if I'll do one thing, I'll have a separate presentation, or a separate counters. There I'll be explaining okay how latency and bandwidth works. So but as to the client, we need to explain it to them that yeah, we do identify issues that if you come up, but in this we'll be requiring the help of a network monitoring team to go deep dive. Okay, so the next thing is, before going to that, I want to see, do you guys have any questions as of now? I can see 11 people.
Yeah, hi, Vinayak here.
Yeah, hi Vinayak.
Yeah, so I have a question. Like, generally, what kind of issue we get? Let's say a certain counter is breached SLA. Let's say CPU 70%. So, but uh, is that the only issue we report, or there is any other issue also? Because they might ask in interviews like, what issues you found during your load test or stress test? How can we explain them?
Okay, so for interview purpose, I would say don't think from as of now. Think as a performance tester as of now. Okay, think as a performance tester, that if you are a performance tester and if you've seen that okay, when I'm running the test, okay, and then it going beyond it's going up to 70%, let's say. Okay, then whether it's something that you should be concerned, or whether you should not be concerned, you have to think as a performance tester as of now, right? Then it's not a single variable, if you ask me, right? If I'm telling you that if I'm putting a user load of 30 user and it's going till 70, okay, and the total user base itself is let's say 35 or 40, okay, number of registered users, it's not so let's take an example. When you log in into your app, let's say amazon.com, okay, now 100 people registered in amazon.com and they'll be doing the shopping, but it's not necessary that all the 100 users will come and use the application all the time, right? It's not like that. If they have a need, they'll come and they can buy something and they can just like close the app, right? But it is but when we come up with this number that say, let's say out of the 100% user, 30% concurrent user will be there. So at a time, let's say if 100 user registered, 30% user will be there on the system. Now with that 35% user response, if the CPU utilization is 70%, I would say it's okay, right? If it's going beyond 80, then it shouldn't question. But again, it happens again because you will be having conversation with your because in requirement gathering, the server supporting, because they have designed, so they, when they design, they keep in mind, okay, these many users when they log into the system, this must be the CPU. So if they put the, I mean, if let's talk about the, if you say course, I mean the, let's say configuration, CPU configuration, what I have done, they also have certain number in their mind, okay, these many users will come up, so this should remain the your CPU configuration, right? But you have to I mean, you have that information at that time, and you have to look at, okay, if it's like one user, two user also are coming up and it's shooting up to 70%, then it's a issue, right? And then you have to see that, okay, fine, where, why it is happening that automatically it's going to 70%. And again, then we have, right, these APM tools with us, which we can see, there we can see the which process, particular process is coming up. Then we have to investigate, okay, why this process is getting triggered by consuming so much space. So like that, it will start, the investigation will start happen. And then you share those input with the application team, they also investigate, or like server support team, they also investigate from their end, that with two or one user, why this process is getting triggered. And then the resolution start working.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
Right? Makes sense, right? You have to think from
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
like, so any, I mean, in this entire course now, I would expect everyone to think, don't think from interview purpose, that thing will be taken care in the end. You'll have a lot of questions to answer, okay? But think as a performance tester, that, okay, fine, uh, what a performance tester would do. Okay, okay, I have one question for you guys now. Okay, let me pick some random one. Okay, Varun, I think, yeah. One, you can mute and whistle. Tell me about a difference. I mean, since, like, I mean, obviously you guys have joined performance testing, so you are aware, okay, what is performance testing. So tell me a basic difference, if I'm a layman, I'm not an IT guy, and tell me what is the difference between manual, automation, and performance, how it's these things are different.
Actually, I just now I joined the session,
Okay,
so I didn't know anything.
okay, no issues. Anyone, it's like open forum, anyone can unmute and answer.
Yeah, hi, Alap sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, in between manual testing and performance testing, in manual testing we don't use any tool to sort out our issues or finding the bugs. And for performance testing, we require a tool for doing that.
Okay.
Like here, we are using LoadRunner, and for manual testing, we don't need any tool.
Okay, my question is, what are you testing here? I'm not talking about the tools or the process. What are you trying to achieve when you are doing a manual testing, you're not doing automation testing, what you are performance testing? What are you trying to achieve? My question is that.
So in
There is
manual
a
testing,
reason to everything. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, it is a functional testing in manual testing. So there we have to find the bugs which is in the application, and this in this performance testing, we have to find out how our website or application is responding in a particular scenario, like 30 concrete users are coming at a particular time.
Okay, cool. It's correct. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll give you one example. I mean, which you can, it helps you to remember. Now think it as Amazon.com. Okay, now I'm logging into Amazon.com. I'm entering my user ID password. I'm entering sign in. I'm able to log in. I'll add to cart. That item has been added to the cart, and then I'll go to the checkout. I'll do the payment. Done. Right now in like in when you are talking about manual testing, as a manual tester, you have to write case studies, right? So you'll be writing a case study that, okay, fine, when I'm entering a user password, the login should happen, right? And then when I'm adding the cart is actually getting added. I mean, the item is getting added to the cart. When I'm entering the like when I'm going to the payment portal, it's actually happening. I mean, when I'm doing the payment is actually happening. So we are there. I mean, as you said, we are trying to find the bugs. So the functionality, where do you say the functionality that the search login has some functionality to log in the user. So those functionalities are working or not. As a manual tester, you write case studies, you do that, right? So same thing when it goes to automation, we are basically automating this process with the number of like users are increasing, so that we can see whether a number of users are coming up, so it's the work is getting done, right? But when it comes to performance, we are not concerned with whether the login user is able to log in or not. We are concerned how much time it's taking, and we are concerned that if 100 users are logging going to happen at the same time, are they able to log in or not? So things here completely change. I mean, here if you see, yeah, give me a second. Response time, right? Response time, we are concerned with the response time, that how quickly the server is able to respond to the your request. So and then we see, okay, fine, it's not taking the enough, like it's taking a longer time. It can happen that let's say I'll give you one example, like a good example for pharmacy, which you can tell that what happens that when you are going to, I mean, when there's a sale, right, Amazon sale is there, and what happens when you click on the item, it's loading, and by the time you able to get into that, the item is sold out, or it gets timeout error. Now those things are performance testing issues. how I mean, if we're talking about when we say that SLA's headmage is fine, that in 5 seconds, that SLA is not for 5 user, 10 user, it's for every user that is coming up on your website or the application. So you have to optimize your system in certain way that all the users have the same experience. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So uh, let's move forward. Then the trigger points. Okay. Now this is a very important thing. A lot of business head, I would say, and I mean, let's say if the functional team is there, okay, manual testers are there, functional testers are there, and they are saying that, okay, I mean, they reach out to us, even the application reach out, okay, let's do a testing. So there might happen, I'm not saying that it happens, but I have seen it. That's why I'm saying that they are not even aware properly what is performance, what are trigger points, when do we have to do that. So we need to explain to them with this, and you can simply tell us that, sir, we have certain trigger points which can help you identify, okay, there is a need for performance testing, right? So when there is an increase in the user count today, in July, I've done the testing for MFS application, let's say for 50 users. Now, over the period of time, what happened that the user count has increased. Okay, now the user is 100 users are coming logging into the application. Even the concurrent user also, like we have taken as 30, let's say. So now the concurrent user has been increased to 70, and they were getting complaints that, okay, for my application is not doing well, the timeout errors are coming up, response time delays are there, those things issue. The customer, I mean, customers are complaining, and the client comes up that what kind of testing you guys have done. I mean, we are getting complaints every day. So you have to ask them, sir, that what's the user base now, user count is there, because you have certified with, let's say, 30 users. Now the user base has changed, so you have to do it again, and you have to optimize the system according to that. Okay, and then there is significant change in the code. I mean, this is some you will see when, I mean, this what happens is that I mean, the best example that I can think of is like, you will read about this also. So there's a thing called garbage collection there. So there what happens that if you write unnecessary methods, the GC will keep like, it comes up and it get expired, unnecessary GCs will be triggered, and it can happen. It's one of the issues. But again, if there's a significant change, I would say, then yeah, performance testing needs to be done, because some piece of code might be creating unnecessary blocker and to your calls, I mean, to the systems, and that needs to be tuned properly. So in order to do that, you should be suggesting people that, yeah, if you have done a major change, major release, then definitely you should go for a performance testing. Okay, so then data volume. So let's say if I'm today testing MFS application, right, and the number of rules are 100, with after a month, 1000 10,000 rules have been made by the time. So the date, I mean, the data volume that is there in infrastructure has increased significantly increased, right? So it can happen that there might be some issue with the database, it's not properly tuned. So how to there's a testing also, if you have guys heard, called volume testing. This is what we do in volume testing, is basically what I mean, if it's a new system, we don't have that much amount of data. So what the team does, infrastructure team, they push some dummy data, and then we do the testing, so that we can identify, okay, if these many let's say 10 million data is there in the system, the system is well tuned to handle that. So in order to address those questions, we need to do volume testing. And again, if you're telling that, yeah, there is a significant increase in volume, definitely you should tell them that you should go ahead for performance testing. Next type is let's take Amazon only. Amazon was launched in the US, right? So they have developed everything for like the UI, the payment config portal, and how to add the card, all the databases, everything they have made it. Okay, now at that time India, like there were not much users in India, right? So they've decided, okay, let's expand in India. They have created the user base, they've added the sellers, everything has been done. But what happens now that earlier some 10 users were there only from India, but now there will be 10 lakh users. So they have to deploy like a data center near to India so that the response, the latency will be less, and they have to develop the infrastructure like a separate. So Amazon.com, Amazon.in, I think it's like different for India. So they have developed it, but the interface looks, everything looks same, right? So they have deployed the same code. Now they cannot say that okay fine with this, if you are doing the same, we are deploying the same site here also, everything the user, I mean the performance of the application will be same. They cannot assure that, nobody can assure that. But when we can assure that, when we do a performance testing, so they will come to us and say that okay, we are rolling this application now in India, and we need to certify that okay 10 lakh users will be able to access the application in like with the same user experience. I mean, we want to check the SLAs, so then we can have a performance testing here also. I mean, we can do a load test and certify that yeah, these many users will be good to go. So this is, I mean, depending on the role set, and tomorrow they can do in Jakarta, they can do in China, whatever country that they are trying to do, and then we can do a performance testing to certify. Okay, so this also termed as site certification. I mean, basically we are or different site ID. Site ID is basically location, right? Think of it as location. Site, don't confuse it. Site is basically different countries, I would say, different countries. So if the rollout is happening, they are certifying okay, this is good to go here. Then if there is infrastructural and structural change, I mean, this talks about database. I mean, if you are changing anything in database, then definitely you should go for performance testing. Now the best practice, business needs to be suggested to test. Okay, so there are two kinds of application, right? If you guys know, there's a business critical application and there's mission critical application. So you can go ahead and see the definition. So business critical applications are applications if they go down or these are critical to the business, I mean there will be a heavy losses. So those application needs to be optimized and tuned and maintained the best for ability. Okay, for any organization they have to keep it running all the time, so they have multiple things put in place that never happens. But yeah, from a performance testing point of view, you have to make sure that the performance degradation should not happen. The performance of the application should remain intact even after a year, after 2 years. So now how do you maintain that? You maintain that by doing at least one performance testing, so that any if any issues are coming up, we can address that well in advance. So this is something good that you have to remember also. This is something which is actually getting used in our projects. Okay, and if you tell this to anyone, they will definitely know that I mean you know your stuff. Okay, 1 second. Okay, the next is performance testing career, same thing, but we have like quantified the those variables, those terminologies. So total number of users and concurrent users. Again, the total number of users is basically number of registered and concurrent who are actually accessing the application. So I've given one rough idea depending upon our FMS application. So we have said okay, if the user base is greater than 25 and the average user base count for each site, I mean let's say site like it's in India, tomorrow will be in UAE or any other country, so the user base is more, average user base is more than 10, then you should go ahead and tune the application, do the performance testing. Then business operations of business, so business functional coverage, revenue impact, high availability need. So we are saying that if it's a critical application, again this is been reciprocated in terms of business critical application. So if it's an application, if it goes down or if any performance, it's simple, like you have to think from a e-commerce platform. So if I'm there are so many e-commerce platform, right? We have Amazon, we have Flipkart. Now if I have to buy a, let's say buy a wallet, and the wallet, the cost is same in on the both the portal, but I'm facing okay, Amazon is taking too much time, the payment portal is not working, all those things are happening. I will immediately go to Flipkart, and there I will buy like immediately buy my thing and then move on. Now that is a business loss for from a client perspective view. So these things become very crucial for them and that needs to be optimized. I mean, they cannot compromise on response time, so that is because that becomes very crucial. And if you have those kind of application, then definitely performance needs to be employed. Global access, I mean, if the users are spread globally, you can tell them the public usage, high external user base is there, I mean the user load is high, then definitely. Architectural complexity, I mean complex computation, heavy data interaction, multiple interface and jobs are happening, then also you have to do the performance testing. Special need, I mean, uh, in case, I mean, it's like a special need, I would say. So in case of 1 or 5 criteria not matched, but the customer still wants to do performance testing, sometimes what happens that out of these 5 criteria, client is, they don't have any these, I mean these uh, uh, I would say issues with their problems, okay, with their system or the application, but still they want to be sure. I see. I want to make sure that okay, my due diligence has been followed. My application is well tuned, optimized. Okay, what happens in industry that if you are having issues, if you're saying okay, 2 courses, I mean there might be some issue with the code which is causing more CPU utilization. Okay, and then instead of optimizing your code, the what will happen that the infrastructure team do well, what will they do? They increase the CPU, they increase the number of cores. If it's there a 4 core, they'll make it or 8 core. Okay, but that doesn't solve the issue. So, it's basically you're increasing your infrastructure cost. Okay, so in order to well tune that, the identify those unnecessary, I mean blocker codes, and then putting the infrastructure which is only needed for your system, that can be done using performance testing. And if it's not met, then also we can go ahead and do the performance testing. Okay, so we have to explain it to the client that what are the layers when it comes to performance testing. So client, okay, now I have like put in analyze and optimize and analyze only. So let me go first to the analyze only. Okay, now you are assessing the application. Okay, your internet, you have a certain internet provider, and then you have certain mobile also. Now if you're using a mobile of 5,000 rupees, if you're using a mobile of 50,000 rupees, okay, if let's say Micromax and let's say iPhone, right? And now your internet service providers are also different. Okay, can we say that if I'm going to open google.com, the both of the users is going to have the same experience? Is it necessary? No, we cannot comment. Depending upon the mobile, I mean what the whether how the mobile is working, whether it's, I mean it's well tuned or not. If it's iPhone, obviously it will work properly. Micromatch, not sure if it's new, it's maybe it will work, maybe it's old, maybe not, the lag will be there. So I mean the memory and the processor and the memory, that's we're talking about the external client. And then local network, what kind of browser settings are there, then internet service provider service, I mean whether the network connectivity is good. So you might feel that okay, I'm accessing the application, but it is not necessary that it's a application issue, it might not be the issue. Okay, so we have to look it from that angle as well. I'll give one example. I mean there was a issue, I mean in one of the application in my project. And what happened that the users were from, I mean they have complained to the business unit saying that for these applications the users are having poor performance. Okay, and it has been, the issue has been raised. What happened then, we had certain tool, I mean we had certain tool, APM tool with us. So we have employed that tool, and then we've identified that all the users from Jakarta, all the users from Jakarta. Okay, and then we have identified that all the users that are accessing the application are using a Chrome version, okay, which was older than 12.1 release, and there was some policy that was not implemented. So either you have to change the policy on the server to enable those, I mean those queries basically were getting timed out, not getting failed, timed out. So when I click on something, let's say if I'm opening Chrome, and if I'm clicking okay, let's search something, and then it will keep on loading. So that was happening, it was not showing failure, but yeah, it was not letting it pass also, it was keeping it queued. So what was happening that the service, those web requests got timed out, and for all the users. So when we have identified that all the users are facing this issue, so there was two solutions that as a performance testing team we have recommended, that either you ask all the users to switch on to like a different browser which could address that issue, or you can change the policy. So they have gone with the first idea, and the issue was resolved. So there it was not an application issue. There was nothing that we are doing on application. We are investigating on the client basis, right? Client machine, what is happening on their client machine. So as a performance engineer, you have to look into that as well, right? Makes sense, right? Let me see. Okay. Do you have any questions, guys? I can like, okay. Let me finish this and I'll have a few questions for you. Okay, so next is internet. I mean, you have to look at the internet. There might be a proxy issue, then gateways issues with their URL monitoring. I mean, there might be some issue with the URL also. You're not putting it properly also, and it's connecting the wrong port. Those things will happen. So again, internet, it's immediately identifiable, but yeah, you have to look it, and these things you cannot control. You can only analyze and suggest, right? The way we did for the client issue, right? Similar way, have to suggest that, see, we are seeing this, these are the possible recommendation, and you have to go ahead and do it. Now coming to the client machine, these are machines which is there in our own domain, I would say. So I mean, okay, so there there also we can have the similar issue, right? So if the system is not, if you're using 4 GB of RAM, okay, and you've been using it for a long time, just machine becomes slow. It is as simple as that. Okay, then you have to see the client is, okay, I'm having issues with the application, this application, it's not well to know. You cannot complain, because not all the users have the same thing, right? So you have to look at it, and then you have to investigate, okay, whether whether it's a client issue or not. So there's a client side testing also that has been, people employ to investigate this. Now the local network, again, local VPN, whatever is there, you have to see it. Then the browser, that browser setting, sometimes you need to see if the proper proxies have been placed or not, what kind of browser, I mean, they are using. So I mean, in my project there was an application which was only accessible from Internet Explorer. Okay, if you open it from Chrome, it used to not work properly. So that is how it is. So that needs to be also incorporated, and those things are communicated. So where the application team only, because they have developed the application. But again, you have to investigate if the issue, those issues comes up. Now this network that I have written here is basically the like within your network, office network, right? So bandwidth, traffic volume, router configuration. So again, these things you can analyze and optimize. You can see using the network monitor tool. If you have, you can give some recommendation, and again, this will employ working with closely with the network monitoring team as well. So you can identify, and nowadays, I mean, in Dynatrace, you can monitor the network traffic also. So if you are seeing any anomaly there, definitely you can highlight, and that can be addressed. Now, as a performance tester, these two, server and database, these are two things in which their major recommendations will come and help to optimize the system. Then which is application code, processor memory, local network, and compression. And when it comes to database, I mean, this is also as of now, I would say, all of you, for most of you actually, you don't need to worry about these things. I mean, this is something that is expected out of uh, let's say 5 or 7 years of experience of guy. think they need to have a good insights about these things. I mean, how can you optimize the system if you don't know what is I mean, uh, what is indexing? Okay, those things needs to be known. So don't need to worry, it will keep like, but I'm giving a general idea that what are the things that needs to be that has a potential to be optimized. So in database, you can like program queries, the queries that are running. You have to make sure that the queries are properly uh, uh, written, so that it's not taking longer time to execute, and the indexing is properly done, so that the item is getting found very quickly, uh, right? So those things can be addressed here. Now when this is all done, client was okay, fine, everything is there, but what kind of testing you guys do? Let me know, I mean, when to employ. So I'll do one thing, for load testing, for these I'll give you one example. So I'll give you example for each and every, so that it retains in your memory rather than going for a definition. We all can search from the internet, that is not the issue. I mean, you can go in and read it. So I mean, let's say load testing is it's very basic. So when we are saying that let's say that 30, let's in the way we are doing for our application, we want to make sure that if 30 users are going to come at the application at a time, the application should remain stable. You should not show any performance issues. Let's take an example of Amazon.com. Okay, so if Amazon is there, they also come up because they have the analytics tool. They can see how many users are active at a time, how many users have auto registered. So those things can be seen. I mean, application team also have that access. They can provide to that input, and then they say, okay, fine, let's do one thing. Let's test our application with these many users. I mean, what I can see from our app, I mean, from the backend, that yeah, these many users are active. So we'll go ahead and let's add some more, like 10% on the top of that, and let's test it, see whether the application remains stable or not, whether we are observing any degradation or not. So again, in that case, we can go ahead and do a load testing. Stress testing is a type of testing which, I mean, evaluate the application performance to a load much higher than the expected load. Another expected stress is to determine the breakout point of the application, the point at which the application failed to respond in a correct manner. Okay, so stress testing is basically uh, we are going to put a load more than the anticipated load, right? So it can happen that somebody, some seller, what he has done, he has I mean, they have decided, okay, let's lower the prices, and they have reduced the prices, and that news got leaked that, okay, or I would say that Apple, I mean, Apple, what they have done, they have released some sale. Okay, for today the Apple prices are dropped by 50%. Now everybody will be start rushing and accessing the application, saying, okay, I want to buy this. Okay, I want to buy this. uh, the reason I'm giving you this example, because I have to explain the spike testing, and then you will know the difference, why these things are little different. Okay, so the user load that is expected, I mean, they expected, okay, 10 lakh users will be there, and now what happened, 20 lakh users have come up. So there was a sudden increase in the user base, right? So whether the system is able to sustain that or not, how do you test that? You test that by doing either, I mean, scalability testing or stress testing. So when you are doing the stress testing, when you are getting failure more than 40%, you are seeing, okay, all the transactions are failing, and if it's going more than 40%, then you know, okay, you have to stop the test. And some organization, they do breakpoint also. They know exactly when their application is going down. I remember when we used to have our board results. I mean, I don't know what happens today, whether they did tune in. So I think NSA, National Institute, I mean, agency, they used to release our results, right, on CBSE. I was CBSE board student. And what happens when the news got used to come up that, okay, your results has come up, and you go and log in, you can never log in into the application. It used to get stuck. Okay, because they have not done the testing, they have not done the spec testing. Okay, but now I'm a tester, so when I think about it, if I meet anyone, I don't know why you guys don't do it. So that is how it is. So if they can, because all the, I mean, let's say 10 lakh students have written that they all don't want to check at that instant only, but if you check it after 1 or 2 hours, you will be able to access the your results. So because they also know that, they don't ever do that tuning, they know, let it go, because it happens like only once a year. So they don't want to spend. That is what my thinking is, not necessary. uh, so again, we need to have the data, and depending upon the metrics, because they know, they can monitor those fluctuations. They know, okay, these are the numbers where the application issue might come up. So when they are actually facing the issue, when, I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys might also heard that sometime the WhatsApp crashed, okay, sometime long back, and Facebook also crashed, and even Amazon was not, like, initial days when this came up, I mean, some 2-3 years back, these things were also not doing properly. So we used to have these issues there at that time. So then they knew, I mean, they knew, okay, they can see, okay, these many users come up, okay, that might be issue, then they can reboot the system and get it up. Endurance testing. Okay, so next type of testing is endurance testing. It's like, so the best example what I can think of is your let's say salary, okay, batch processing, if you guys know. So I mean, like batches will be created, and let's say your salary, right? So if tomorrow Infosys or any company, any big mass company, they have to process the salaries. Okay, so they have I think they have 75 like employees TCS. So 75 employees will be getting their salary processed, and they'll all be getting their salary on 30th. Now imagine the amount of data that needs to be processed. I mean, they have to process that salary, right? So how do you handle that? So those things are done in batch processing. So for you, I mean, they'll put the salary, and that will keep on pressing overnight, and by the morning your salary will be cashed in your account. Now this is one of the examples there. You can check, you can employ this type of testing, see whether if anticipated load is there for a longer duration of time, whether your system is able to sustain that load or not, or it's showing out of memory exception. Now out of memory exception comes up because your program is getting executed. And if I mean, then the garbage collection logic also comes up, that okay, the memory is getting unnecessary unused objects are getting cleared or not. Now if it's not properly tuned, configured, those objects will not die out, and the memory will get full, and further processing might not happen. Okay, so in those scenarios, I mean, you can think of a banking application. We cannot say that okay, fine, this application is needs to be performed in the daylight. Okay, if the HDFC have developed some mobile application, it's same. I think Apple app, from App Store, everybody knows the same application, right? It should not happen that okay, fine, if in the timing it's working fine, in the night it's not working. So in order to do those testing, we need to employ inverse testing, so that if an anticipated amount of load if put in place for a longer duration, let's say 8 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours, the system should perform as it should be. Simple. Okay. Strike testing, best example is fire sale. I mean, this we have this big billion day sales, right? Then the moment it launches, so many people will come up, and then the item is gone, they'll go also. Okay, and then again after 1 hour they'll come up and they try to buy it, and then again they go back. So if you can see with this graph, I mean, remember this graph. Okay, this graph basically help you remember all the type of testing in one place. So this is your load testing. So we have the anticipated load put in place and certifying okay for if the 100 like 10 users or 30 users are going to log in the application for 1 hour, application will remain stable. Stress testing, we are basically increasing the user count, okay, virtual user count, and the time is basically same. Spike testing is again certain user login thinking okay, the sale will come, then again the sale I mean the offer came up. Now more number of users are login, again there's a spike. No, they were not able to buy it, again they are gone, they're like okay, I'll check it after 1 hour. But certain users are optimistic, okay, no, I'll be there, I'll want to buy it, then those anticipated users will be there. And then again when the next offers come, more people will come up. So this is I mean the spike testing, and this is the best example you can remember. It retains there. Endurance testing, again anticipated or load for a longer duration of time. So the I mean, if you imagine this 1 hour, this should be 4 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours. It can go up to what I have heard, the 24 hours also people are doing it. So it happens. And this is a breakpoint testing. I mean, so if you keep on increasing the load, keep on increasing the load, the system is going to break after some time. It will stop responding, or everything will start failing. So you'll know okay, with these many users, if put in place, my system will fail, right? So now uh, okay, volume testing again, that I explained in the starting, that today when you are testing the application, um, if it's an account ledger application, let's say, okay, you are maintaining the ledger count, okay, and today when you're testing the, let's say 5-6 entries are there, okay, I'm just giving a rough idea. Tomorrow after the year 10 lakh entries will be there. So you cannot compare apple to oranges, right? It should be apple to apple basically. So if then we cannot complain that okay, last year we have done the testing, it was working, they have certified that it should work properly, but now it's not working. Correct, the user count is same, but what about the volume, that is data volume that is there in infrastructure, that has increased significantly. So you have to do another round testing, and this you don't have to wait actually for this. The application, I mean the server support team application, they put a dummy data in your system, you do the testing, and then it's like okay, if this much of user loads comes up, then also the system is able to sustain that. So those things will be there. Now you have understood properly that what kind of testing is there. Okay, I think we are done. So okay, now you have understood. I'll quickly sum up all these things. Now you have understood, right? What things are there. I mean, what depending on the business requirement, what kind of testing I need to employ, right? Those things you have understood now. Now, as a performance tester, when the client comes up and tell his problem to you, that see, I'm having these issues with my this particular component, and what should I do? Then you are in the position now. You are in a position now to suggest, okay, this kind of testing needs to be employed, and then they will say, okay, fine, what data do you need? So again, you need to create scenarios. So you will ask, okay, what particular component is there that is having issue? Okay, then you have to do workload modeling. So you will ask, okay, what is the user load? We'll do it tomorrow. I'll just give you a quick idea that, okay, what is the user load? So we will tell, okay, 30 users are there. Okay, are 30 user all these 30 user accessing all the components? Then no, only the registration will happen for all the users, but merchant to merchant only 20, like 80% users will go, and for search only 80% users will do, and create rule only 50% users will. Like that he can give you idea, because I mean, there are multiple Google Analytics is there, plus the, I mean, application team, they have the backend data, right? They can access this information. They can show what application is getting more used, right? So they can pull this data. Then we can ask, okay, what is the SLA? I mean, how much SLA are you expecting? That what should be the response time for this? What's the maximum response time? So they will tell, okay, I don't want this to go more than 5 seconds. They're like, okay, fine. Okay, can you tell me how many times the scenario happens? I mean, we can see, right, how many times the rules are getting created. This, so we can see this from data from the backend. So they can provide, okay, fine, I will get you that information, and he will provide the driver. With this information, you have to quantify what kind of testing you are going to do, why, I mean, how you are going to do it. So those things I will tell. I mean, we'll have this, we'll continue this tomorrow, that how we quantify this. And then not even this, I mean, you have to do the assumption. I mean, a lot of assumptions you have to do. If you, so what are the assumptions that one should do it? What are the constraints that one has to face it? Then what are the risks involved with this? The dependencies, and what are the dependencies? If those dependencies are not met, I mean, we should know. If they need, we cannot wait, right? So we need to know what are the escalation metric, how to approach what person to approach, so that those issues can be fixed. So let's do it tomorrow. But before going, okay, do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have
Aditya
others.
has some. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Manisha, go
Uh,
ahead.
you, yeah,
Okay,
you
Manish,
have
Manish.
you used a term that garbage collection. So what is actually garbage collection? What means it is created automatically, or it is, or we have to do something with that?
I mean, it's a inbuilt functionality of Java. Okay, so it happens automatically. Okay, but what happens is that if it's like, it happens automatically, but what happens is that if the code is not optimized properly, okay, and if the object has died already, okay, so there is a thing called id, new generation, young generation, okay, then you have old generation, pom gen is there. So you need to understand how it happens. I mean, what are the different components are there. I would say no need for as of now, but yeah, if you expect, I can have one separate session. I'll quickly explain it to you, what are the things that a person should look upon. But again, we need to tune that, because those, I mean, those GC cycles that are happening, we can tune that depending upon the application, right? So those things can be tuned and done. Uh, but I mean, can you please repeat your question? I mean,
Yes, my question is like garbage collection. Is there any importance of like after analyzing all these things, we have to generate the report at the end. So is there
depends
any
totally.
importance of garbage collection?
Yeah. So see, again, I would say that it's not necessary that in every project you have to pull it. It depends upon the investigation. When you have run the test, you have found that, okay, some issue is coming up in your memory. Then again, you have to, that depends. I mean, if your CPU is spiking up, then you have to pull the thread dumps. If you are seeing your memory issues are there, then you have to pull heap dumps. If you are seeing in your heap that out of memory issues are coming up, then you need to see, okay, fine, these are all snapshot. Okay, garbage collection, these, I mean, we take dumps, these are snapshot. They can tell, okay, how many GC cycles are happening. If it's happening too frequently, then we have to see, okay, why it's happening too frequently. And if it's see, whether we have to see how many dead objects are there, whether deadlock is happening or not. These are part of performance investigation that we do, right? So I would say don't think as of now, think on the testing purpose. I mean, from a performance tester, I like state in the first class itself, right? That design scenario, workload modeling, all those things, focus on this. Analytics will have one session. I mean, I'll show you that as a in terms of analytics or in terms of diagnostics. I would say the diagnostics, how to approach it, and what are the things that one should look for. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Aditya is still there or he left? Okay. So Aditya, your question is how can you set up an environment for cloud-based application? So I mean, environment. Are you talking about APM tool, or can you set up environment?
No, no, sir. Regarding the load we will be throwing over the application, those who which applications are over the cloud.
No,
So
no,
load generator should be over the cloud environment. How
correct, correct, correct,
the
correct, correct, correct,
setup we will be doing? Yeah.
correct, correct. We have to install that LG. I mean, we have to install the load generator there, and it's not that hard. I mean, you can the documentation is there. You can go and refer it, and you can go and just install it, and then it will automatically show up in your performance center to map it, and then you can just run the test environment. I mean, if it's a Linux system, it's a Windows system, it's a VM, it's okay. It's not a trouble. We only need LGs there to simulate the load. So what a
Okay.
load generator does is the amount that we're okay 100 V users. So it's basically those. I mean, when the controller, I mean, you guys know load LR. So okay, then controller we define, okay, this will be my scenario. This is how these many users will be there. So that simulation is getting done by your load generator only, and you can install it in any system. Not an issue.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Fine. Thanks.
Okay, then that's up. Let's meet tomorrow. Then we'll discuss. Let's continue with this NFR tomorrow session only. Also, thank you guys. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.